Hello, everyone. This is Christy Villanueva, President of the West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our education session live on Facebook. So I'll remind you that if you have any questions you'd like to submit during our time here, please feel free to do so. We will stop, answer those questions, or if you'd like information to speak to our guests directly at a later time, we will offer that information in the chat so you can follow up on your own. So moving forward, I want to welcome Genesis Eakes of Genesis Eakes International. Genesis has been a wonderful volunteer and member of the West San Antonio Chamber for quite a while now. She has helped us with so many of our educational business courses and leadership courses. So it was a pleasure to have her here with us to introduce the 3 things team members need most from their leaders. And at this time, we know we need all the help we can get and support. Genesis, are you there with us?
I am. Christy, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak to the West San Antonio Chamber of Commerce for all of their members. And this is just an exciting time to be able to contribute and to help leaders all across our area. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely. And Genesis, just for those folks that might be listening that maybe haven't attended one of the classes that you've presented for us, tell us a little bit about Genesis Eakes International and what you do and how you help businesses.
Sure. Thanks, Christy. I'd love to. So first and foremost, Genesis Eakes International is a leadership development company. We really focus in on helping leaders develop their leaders within their organizations. A lot of times what we have experienced over the years, and I started out in the corporate world, so before I jumped into this side on the consulting side of the world, I was first and foremost in the corporate space, especially in the HR world and training and that side of things. And one of the things that I discovered over time was that businesses are really great at solving problems. They are fantastic. They each have their own little niche. They exist to solve a problem that we have in our world today. They solve that need that we have. But what they don't always do a great job at, because they are so focused in on that particular target market, that they don't necessarily know how to grow and develop leaders within their organization. So what happens is that they will tend to plateau. They'll come up against what we call a leadership lid. They have this thing where they've grown their organization so far, and then they can't figure out why they can't get over that next hump. And it really doesn't matter, Christy, the size of the organization. It can happen when someone's starting out as that solopreneur, or it can be in this multi-billion-dollar organization with thousands and thousands of employees. They can still hit that same leadership lid where they don't know how to get past it because they haven't continued to develop their own team and their own people within the organization. So that's where I come alongside them. I have all kinds of solutions for them. We collaborate together and figure out that right solution for each organization to work on them developing their people. So they're not constantly trying to hire someone from outside their organization, having to go through the whole culture shift, figuring out, do they actually match my culture or not? We're actually training the people, developing them from the inside.
That's fantastic. And it's funny that you say that because we hear it all the time where people don't understand why they've hit this roadblock. They're putting their blood, sweat, and tears into the company, and they don't understand why the connection isn't there, or they've missed that opportunity to win more projects. And they say, mine is just as good as the other companies. It's almost a mystery. And that communication, and I know what you're going to talk to us about today is extremely relevant for those small, medium, and large size companies. And I want to even bring it home even more by saying there are a lot of what we call second tier type companies that are small, but they're at a larger level. They're able to take on $1 million jobs, 5 million and 10 million or more, but they're still stuck in making this progress. So amazing, amazing information. So please get us started and tell us more about our topic today.
Sure. So when we were having a conversation a while ago, one of the questions that came up was really about the climate that we're in. We're all trying to make sure that we're being incredibly relevant and very sensitive to the unique year that is 2020, right?
Yes.
So, looking at that, one of the biggest things that was just coming across my desk over and over again is like, what do my people need from me that was different maybe than what I thought it was at the beginning of the year, right? We all had plans in January that have
Yes.
changed dramatically. And one of the things that is also adapting and changing in this climate is what our people need from us. Some of it's changed, some of it's actually still very much the same, just our eye has shifted and kind of taken our eye a little bit off the ball of what our people need, because we've been so focused on what the business needs that we forget that our people are actually our business as well. So
Yes.
first and foremost, Christy, and this is going to be no surprise to people, it's kind of an oldie but a goodie, if you will, people are looking for communication. The number one thing that your team members are looking for from their leader is great communication. But let me just tell you that communication looks a little bit different when we are working virtually than it did when we were face to face. And the first thing I like to tell people, there's kind of like 3 C's of communication. When you're thinking about communication, kind of think about it like the 3 C's. The first C is connection. And this one is kind of tough when you are focused on the business, when you're focusing in on the tasks at hand and the job that has to get done, and this constant change, right? It seems like
Right.
every other day there's new governmental mandates, there's new challenges that are being thrown our direction. And we're like, okay, now what do I need to do? We've got to pivot like this. I thought we were going to pivot this way. Now we've got to go back this way. And in this kind of an environment, one of the things that's easy to forget is that when we're talking about communication, it all starts with connection. Now, when I'm talking about connection, this is the other part that is interesting. Sometimes we will feel like we're connecting because, Christy, I gave you some data, right? I sent you an email, so I'm communicating with you. I
Yes.
sent you a to-do list. I sent you, these are all of the things that I need from you by the end of the week or by the end of the day. So we've communicated, right? I connected with you.
Right.
Wrong. Even if I did that, I jumped on a Zoom call, right? So I jumped
Right.
on a Zoom call and now I said it to you face to face and I gave you this little to-do list. We're done, we connected. Wrong. Connection does not actually happen when we're exchanging just facts, when we're exchanging data, when we're talking about even just superficial things like the weather. Connection doesn't actually happen on that level. Connection actually happens when we get into the messy parts of people's lives and we start talking about things like their opinion, when we start talking about things like their ideas, feelings, and dare I even say their dreams, because
Oh
people
my
have
gosh.
dreams and aspirations right now too. So if I don't take time as a leader to actually get to know you as a person, because that's where your feelings come into play, you might feel differently about something than I do. In fact,
Mhm.
it's probably true because we're all so unique. That's what makes us stronger, is that uniqueness, that we can have differing opinions, that we
Yep.
can have different feelings about things, we can have different ideas. Because in that exchange, that's where we're actually connecting with each other on a real level. And that's where actually better ideas come from, because you're getting into more of like a brainstorming space. And I
Absolutely.
also have the opportunity as a leader to be able to set you up to succeed when I know what you're dreaming about,
Mhm.
right? If
No,
you're,
absolutely. But I know it's difficult for some leaders to get that deep with their staff. That's a little uncomfortable. So it's a space that they need to get used to too.
yes, it can be uncomfortable, and it can also be a challenge to time, right? Because we all have busy
Mhm.
schedules. And that's where the second C comes in. It takes a commitment. Because if
Mhm.
you're going to communicate with your people, if you're going to give them what they need, it's going to take a commitment on your part, which means it has to hit your calendar. It has to actually be scheduled into your calendar, because if it's not just magically going to happen. I've tried that for years. I'm a type A person that just, I'll try to cram in a lot of things in my day. And I've noticed the busier I get, even when it comes to family, right? These are people that I love, kids, husband, all of that stuff. Even when it comes there, if I don't actually schedule out time or block the time on my
Mhm.
calendar, it's amazing how it will get eaten up. Right. So when
Yeah.
we're in our virtual space where everybody's still kind of staying at home, officing from home, that time gets blurred. And so we have to
Absolutely.
have those actual boundaries that set up, okay, this is my team. This is my time to connect with my team. This is time to actually connect with this person one on one, because I want to get to know them so I can bring out the best in them instead of using them like a tool that's just an extension of my hand. They're not actually a computer where I
Right.
input data, right? They're actually a
Right.
person that has something that of value that they can offer.
Right. And I think, and the leader will get a lot out of it because the leader might be asking, why is my employee just acting so disconnected, like a punch in and punch out type of mentality? Well, it's because we haven't truly connected with them and we don't know what they're looking for in life and in a job. And then you have a better understanding of the assignments and where the business is going.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Absolutely. Well, and the last C, I'll just tell you this one really quickly, because it kind of dovetails in with the other ones, and that is consistency. So it takes a commitment, it takes connection, but it also takes consistency. I actually happened to be on a call with a CEO of a very large international organization just last week. And this person's a great leader and been doing really well, really has a priority of connecting with their people and all of that. And it was so funny because we had this conversation about the consistency, and he started thinking back and was like, oh my goodness, I just realized it's been a month since I talked to my team as a whole, right? Because
Wow.
it just happens so quickly when you are executing and you're getting all of this stuff done. Yeah, I mean, he connected with people one on one. He'd
Right.
been communicating those things and to do
Right.
lists and all of that stuff. He'd been doing that really well, but it had been a month since he actually got FaceTime, if you will, because
Mhm.
people need to see your face as well as your voice on a consistent basis, because they're not seeing you in person. They need to see it so they can feel what you're trying to communicate. Studies have shown that 80% of communication is nonverbal. So when we're looking at a statistic that high, they've got to be able to see our face, hear our voice on a consistent basis that really communicates the vision of where we're going. Because they know that it's uncertain times. They know that there's not a lot of
Yes.
certainty, but a leader can provide clarity. They can provide the clarity of vision that says, hey, I know that it's uncertain, but this is where we're going today. This
Mhm.
is where you're aiming today. And on that consistent basis, being able to provide that clarity and that vision for the future, because that's really your job as the leader, is to be that chief vision officer, right? That chief person that is painting that clear vision for people to follow, and they know, oh, okay, that's where we're heading today. Got it. It could change tomorrow, it could change next week, but today we're aiming in this direction. So they need that
Absolutely.
consistency.
Wow. No, well, that really brings it home as far as having that leader. I mean, that's what they're responsible for. We're all on this road together and we all want to perform at our highest level, but without the leader explaining things and being clear about the message and really sharing and expressing that understanding that they understand their employees, um, that's a big deal. So absolutely. Okay. And so now that we have our communication down with that connectivity, that commitment, and the consistency, where do we go from here?
So now, and I kind of alluded to this in the last section where we were talking about consistency. This is also something that was very relevant before all of the COVID stuff happened, and it's clarity. Because now we've got to focus on the what, right? So we've worked on connection, we're worked on getting in that space consistently, but what are we actually communicating? And what your people need most from you is clarity. Again, they're not looking for certainty because they know you don't have it, right? So nobody has this crystal ball that says, yes, actually, this is exactly what's going to happen a month from now. Nobody has that crystal ball right now. If they do, please let me know. I would be happy to connect with you. But we don't have this crystal ball, so people understand that, and they're not looking for you to be like this magic genie that can predict future events and all of that stuff. But what they are looking for is clarity of where are we going. And the interesting thing is before all of the COVID-19 stuff hit, studies showed that 50%, half of the workforce, did not know what their boss wanted from them. 50%. So when they're showing up for work every day, they have like this low level anxiety going, okay, I think this is what they want. I think this is it in the mark, but I'm not sure. I think this is right. Because 50% of people did not know. They didn't have a clear vision on what was expected of them. So when it comes to clarity, we're looking at things like define what winning and losing looks like. And that's something that I work with leaders about all the time, because it's so clear in our head when we're leading something. We have this clear vision, we get it, we've been spending a lot of time on it, we've got energy, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can see it so clearly. Exactly, that's because you're the leader. But just because you can see it clearly doesn't mean your people can. It's your job to make sure that it's clear to the people that are reporting to you what winning and losing looks like. What is success, even on a team project, right? Or even in a meeting. I think it's so funny. Unproductive meetings tend to be the bane of the existence of most people in the workforce. Like, oh my gosh, I don't even know. We just spent an hour on something and I have no idea what we came out of that with. Most of the time, it's because nobody comes to that meeting knowing what does success look like. If we accomplish X, Y, and Z, this will have been a successful meeting. So then people come into that space understanding where that goal is, and then we can evaluate at the end. Did we meet it? Did we succeed?
Yes.
And the great thing about that, Christy, is that when we spend time as leaders clarifying, hey, this is what winning means on this project. This is what winning means for this meeting. This is what winning means for X, Y, Z. And when we can define that, it gives us lots of opportunity to create momentum, to celebrate the wins when they occur, and to generate that enthusiasm and that spark within our team. right? Because we're trying to create this momentum and synergy and get people pulling together. And when we've got some wins, even if they're small ones, great. Guys,
Right.
we can end this meeting on time. That's a win.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes we just need to start there. But when we can do things like that, people feel better. The people that are following you are like, okay, I'm doing a good job. They've got that certainty that they are doing a good job and that what they're doing matters to the bigger vision and to the whole.
Absolutely. And this applies to any industry. It doesn't matter.
Any industry.
And I
Any
hear it because we all receive messages in a different way. Just because you're giving me a message doesn't mean I completely understand it. So as we talk through it, then I can make those connections in my mind with my personal experiences, and then I'm able to execute a lot better. Makes sense.
Absolutely. So the other thing with clarity that is also kind of a challenge sometimes because it makes leaders think for a few minutes. One of the other things that is incredibly helpful for people that are following is not only do they need to understand clearly what's expected, right? What are we aiming for? What does winning and losing look like? They also need to know what the leader needs. And this is kind of a funny thing. So if I'm a leader of an organization and when I've got people coming in, if I cannot clearly communicate what I need, then they have zero chance to hit that mark, right? Because what I need is probably very different than what they need. Because what you just pointed out a few minutes ago was very true, right? They need that chance to be able to process it through their own lens because we all have different needs. Sometimes, again, clarifying, coming into a meeting going, okay, I just need some brainstormers right now. That's going to offload some responsibility from people's shoulders that think, oh my gosh, I'm getting a directive when the leader's really just needing to brainstorm and come up with some ideas. The people that are following them oftentimes feel like it's directives and they're stuck in process mode and going, oh my goodness, how do I execute all of this? And they're stuck and can't actually contribute very much to a brainstorm because they don't realize that all the leader wants, all they need is to brainstorm in that moment.
Yeah. And with that connection, it allows us to, I think what I've seen in the past is as you're brainstorming, it also helps the employees take responsibility and really drive up their own personal skills because they can say, here's my idea, and I'd love to run with that idea as a connective piece to the bigger project.
Absolutely. It turns them into collaborators, right? So when you allow them into that thinking space with you, you allow them to be able to bring the strength of who they are into the mix. It turns them into collaborators, which is such a great thing because that's the third thing. So besides clarity and communication, the third thing that employees are looking for, they're looking for a space where they can collaborate. Especially working from home, it can feel very isolating. And a lot of their community is kind of taken away because they don't have a lot of that interaction space with people in the office, the chats around the water cooler, if you will, the coffee pot, going back and forth in the hallway, or even passing each other on a job site, or even in that restaurant space, what that looks like. It's just very different right now. And so opening that up and giving them a space to be an actual collaborator makes a big difference. So here's something, I'm going to share this little tip for you because I know you're always looking for those short and sweet things that we can anchor our head around, go, ooh, that, not that. So I heard this definition several years ago because there's always this thing, okay, but we're cooperating in a way, nothing's wrong. We're cooperating together, is that we hear that a lot, but because there's no conflict that's happening. But there's a big difference between cooperation and collaboration. Cooperation is really when we are peaceably working together, but collaboration is when we're aggressively working together. So one has this tendency of like, sure, I'll give you that information. Sure, you need that. And I'm just exchanging data, right? I'll just give you what it's almost that work to the rule
Yes.
scenario, right? I'm sure we've all heard that before. The quickest way to shut down an organization is when employees just work to the rule. That's a little bit what you get when you're just working on cooperation. I just need everybody to cooperate together. But now really what we're looking for and what employees are looking for is that place where they can aggressively work together, meaning they get to bring who they are to the table. They get to bring their thoughts, their ideas, their opinions, their dreams, their skills, their abilities, their talents. When they get to bring that and aim that at the team, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an opportunity to be able to show up in the strength of who they are and to have that valued in the team and to contribute to that team synergy.
Absolutely. That would make a tremendous difference with any company. And I think, excuse me, and that's where you would see that real growth, that real sincere collaboration. See, I'm falling into that myself. That's years of training with collaboration and cooperation. No, I can definitely see when that leader is asking for, I need more from my employees. I need more active brain power. I need more engagement and responsibility. Well, I can see where all these things come into play. And if you're not actively working on communication, clarity, and collaboration, it's just not happening. You're just doing okay.
Yeah. And in these times, Christy, right? I mean, this is 2020. It's not 2019. Let's be honest.
Yes.
As businesses, we cannot survive on what we did in the past. It's going to take that aggressively leaning in with every single team member that you've got, leveraging those skills, their abilities, their thinking power, their ideas, their concepts, that ability to come up with something next. It's going to take that leveraging of all of that together to be able to stay ahead of the curve and to keep inventing and to keep pivoting and adjusting for what's next.
Absolutely. And we see that in the news all the time, the different companies that are successful today, because everyone is struggling, but those that are successful have brought the team together, communicated the issue, re-clarified what that message is, and then collaborated to execute something new, something temporary, and in other cases, long-term. But that's why they're having so many successes. As we kind of wrap this up, I would like for you to, maybe not reassure is the right word, but let people know, even though these 3 key elements are so simple, these are practices that are used by small and very large businesses. That's the core of things. So if you could just tell us a little more about that.
Sure. If we're being honest, this is what successful people do. And it has to hit, if I could just hit any one thing, right? So like you're saying, it's not complicated. We're not talking about brain surgery. We're not talking about rocket science and some huge, complicated, convoluted thing. But in that simplicity, it gets messy because people are complicated. Going all the way back to that connection piece, if you choose to open up and to get into the details of people's lives, and you actually ask for their opinions, you ask for their ideas, they're going to give them to you, and they're going to be different than yours. And I think that's where people get bogged down sometimes. And because sometimes that part, when we start realizing, oh my goodness, Christy, you're so much different than me. How come you're not the same as I am? And we get lost in that space about how different people are, instead of that we're all aiming towards the same goal. We still all have the same goal. We still all want this project to succeed. We want this business to succeed. We want to accomplish this mission. And when we get our eyes off of that and start looking at the disparity, it gets really complicated and we can fall into all kinds of conflict problems and different things like that. But as a leader, it's our job to bring unity out of all of that diversity. That's our job, is that we get to get into the nuances. Those are some of the things that have made our country, our community so great, is that we're not exactly the same. We each have
Absolutely.
very different ways of seeing things, looking at the world, different experiences, different thoughts and ideas. And it has been, I love living in this country and the fact that it is based on how diverse we are, not in the fact that we are all exactly the same. And out of that diversity, we have found a unity to be able to accomplish something really fantastic. And being here in San Antonio, we see some fantastic diversity on display every single day. We get diversity in businesses, diversity in our culture, diversity in our food. Thank goodness. I love all of the food options that we get. And within our organizations, we've got huge amounts of diversity. And we get to benefit from that when we can bring a unified whole to create something new on the other side of all of that.
That's fantastic. Well, now that we have all this great information, what would you like to send us all home with? What do we do next? How do we reach you? I mean, where do we take all these three elements and make it really happen for our companies?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I would love to be able to have a conversation with anybody that is wanting to take it further. If they want to, if they're looking for some help, because I can tell you as a business leader myself, um, when we try to isolate and lead alone and try to do all of this stuff by ourselves, we get stuck in the same trap everybody else does. And it's so easy to plateau and get stuck doing the same old thing. So if you are ready to get out of that same old thing and to look at ways that you can partner with someone and get some help to get some traction, please, please, please. And I'm not sure if someone can post this in the chat. I think you've got
Absolutely.
one of your people that are there. You can reach me personally. I'm going to give you my personal email address. It is Genesis at genesiseakesinternational.com. Reach out to me there. I'd be happy to communicate with you. We can have a conversation and see what is a good solution for you. The other thing, Christy, is anybody that wants to just reach out, even if they don't necessarily need a conversation with me or something like that, but they'd like to understand a little bit more about how to expound on some of these things that we talked about with the connection and clarity and communication, all of that, I would love to send them the compounding effects of teamwork. It's a amazing. It's a short read, but it's a brochure that is a quick read, but it's full of really great information, especially for that executive leader or that top leader that is looking to be able to get some exponential growth out of their team. I'd love to provide that resource just for West San Antonio Chamber members, people that have jumped on and seen this conversation live. I'm going to offer that complimentary for everyone that wants to just email me and just say, hey, teamwork brief, send that to me. It's an executive brief. I'd be happy to do that. And third, Christy, I would just say, if there's one thing that you can do today, I'm going to challenge everybody that is leading people. I don't care how big your team is, or even if it's just with your family, right? Because we all have families too that count as people that we are leading, that you actually schedule time, make it hit the calendar, that you actually schedule intentional time to connect. So I think that's probably the toughest part. So you can take one action step today. It's scheduling time to connect with your people.
No, absolutely. That is so impactful, Genesis, for you to go through each and every one of these things, because I think through COVID, we've all been struggling with some of that. I personally have had a hard time even taking lunch or stepping outside on a busy day. So things like this, we all need support and we all need the resources. So I'm so glad that you are a resource for all of our members and supporters of the West San Antonio Chamber. So thank you so much for your time and your great lessons. We really appreciate it, Genesis.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'm so glad that we were able to jump on. We scheduled the time, right?
Yes.
To connect for a few minutes and to really add some value to the West San Antonio Chamber members.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who is watching today. It's just like Genesis says, we have to intentionally go out and schedule these things, make them happen, not only for ourselves, but for our team. And it doesn't matter what level of management you're in, or if you're the leader of a multi-million-dollar company. We all need to continue to work on these things for ourselves and for our team members. So I encourage you to reach out to Genesis Eakes International. We will post the information in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this show, please share that with your friends. Please repost it on your Facebook or other social media platforms. We also encourage you to post it on LinkedIn and tag Genesis Eakes International and the West San Antonio Chamber. Have a wonderful day. And don't forget, we are only, 76 days away from the national election. And we encourage everyone to go out and vote. So thank you so much. Make it a great day.